Welcome to this presentation on Breaks Waste Prevention Project. My name is Catherine Warren from Ricardo Energy and Environment, and on behalf of RAP, I will be talking through the approach and results of a project to implement waste prevention actions at Breaks. RAP is a charity part funded by all UK governments and work with the hospitality and food service sector to reduce waste and increase recycling, and save the sector money. This presentation is aimed at anyone working within the hospitality and food service sector, but particularly those involved in the hospitality food service supply chain. This includes individuals working across all parts of the business, including operations, commercial and procurement professionals, those working as environment and sustainability practitioners, and all site staff such as warehouse operatives, packers and drivers. I will start off by giving you some background about the sector and the Hospitality and Food Service Agreement, before moving on to introduce the Breaks Group and the aims of this project. I'll then talk you through the project, including identifying sources of waste at Breaks, the opportunities that were identified to reduce this waste, and how these were developed into an action plan. Finally, we will look at the outcomes and lessons learnt from this project, with the aim of helping you and your business take similar steps to prevent waste. The webinar will take just over 20 minutes. This slide highlights the focus of the work within the Hospitality and Food Service programme and why RAP is working in this area. Let's start from the top. The cost of food waste to the UK hospitality and food service sector is estimated to be in the region of £2.5 billion per year. Although the food waste from this sector accounts for 7% of the total food waste produced in the UK each year by weight, it accounts for a higher proportion of the value at 16%. These costs are estimated to reach £3 billion by 2016. The sector throws away 920,000 tonnes of food each year in the UK. And importantly, it is estimated that 3/4 of this food could have been eaten. This amount of food waste is equivalent to 1.3 billion individual meals. Think of it this way. Food waste thrown away by the sector is the equivalent of 1 in 6 of every meal served. Or rather, out of all of the food that is purchased by the sector, a staggering 18% of this is wasted. This is estimated to cost, on average, £10,000 per year for each outlet in the sector. The hospitality and food service sector produces nearly 3 million tonnes of waste each year, which includes 1.3 million tonnes of packaging. Other waste accounts for 0.66 million tonnes, which includes non-food wastes such as disposable kitchen paper and newspapers. It's necessary to remember that packaging is needed to protect the product and ensure that there isn't any damage throughout the supply chain, and to minimise the impact on product quality, retaining the shelf life of food. But how we manage this packaging after the products have been used and unwrapped is important. Not all of the packaging that is suitable for recycling is actually recycled and is instead thrown away. RAP estimates that more than half, 56% of packaging and other non-food wastes could have been easily recycled. You may already be familiar with the concept of managing waste in line with the waste hierarchy, which sets out waste management options in order of preference. RAP's work with the hospitality and food service sector is aligned with the waste hierarchy, trying to avoid and minimise waste for the greatest financial and environmental benefit, and then later focusing on making sure that waste that is created gets recycled or composted, with the least desirable option being landfill. The Hospitality and Food Service Agreement was launched in 2012, and there are now over 200 signatories and supporters to the Hospitality and Food Service Agreement, covering approximately 25% of the UK sector by food and drink sales, including distribution. The Hospitality and Food Service Agreement has two main targets. The first is a prevention target, which is aimed at reducing food and its associated packaging waste by 5% by the end of 2015. And this will be measured against a 2012 baseline and measured by CO2 emissions. The second target is a waste management target. This is aimed at increasing the overall rate of food and packaging waste that is being recycled, sent to anaerobic digestion or composted to at least 70% by the end of 2015. In order to achieve these targets, WRAP is working with businesses in the hospitality and food service sector in a number of ways. And this project is an example of this. Supported by WRAP, Brakes embarked on a project to analyse the annual waste arisings from Brakes' ambient, chilled and frozen depots in order to identify waste prevention opportunities. The Brakes Group is a leading supplier to the food service sector in the UK, Ireland, France and Sweden. In the UK, Brakes supplies grocery, fresh and frozen food and catering equipment to a wide range of customers, from pubs, restaurants and coffee shops, to schools, colleges, care homes and many more businesses with a food service requirement. Brakes supply these businesses from a network of around 50 depots across the UK and Ireland. In 2012, Brakes were one of the founding members of the Hospitality and Food Service Agreement and are committed to reducing the amount of waste disposed of to landfill and reducing their environmental impact. Brakes have worked very hard and made excellent progress towards their target. In 2014, Brakes was successful in diverting 98% of all of waste away from landfill. Their target is to send zero waste to landfill by the end of 2015. So they were still keen to address the 3,000 tonnes of food and packaging waste that is produced each year and is going to landfill or energy recovery, but that could be recycled. Supported by WRAP, and working in partnership with consultancy Ricardo Energy and Environment, Brakes embarked on a project to analyse the annual waste arisings from their depots in order to identify waste prevention opportunities. Brakes have a lot of sites, and so the project focused on 5 different sites across the distribution network to identify opportunities for waste prevention. These included national distribution centres, regional distribution centres and other smaller depots. The aim of the site visits was to understand the business operations and identify opportunities to prevent waste, as well as gain an understanding of existing monitoring and evaluation systems which were in place. As well as the site visits, Brakes worked with Ricardo Energy and Environment on data and information gathering, reviewing and analysing Brakes waste data, and facilitating discussions with key staff. The aim of undertaking this review was to compare how waste was managed at different sites, how comprehensive recycling services were, and the types of waste disposed of at each site. Following on from this, together, Brakes hosted a one-day workshop attended by staff from key sites, company headquarters and other commercial functions. The initial findings of the site visits and data analysis were presented, and the opportunities to reduce waste were discussed. The aim of the workshop was to present the findings of the site visit for discussion, present the analysis undertaken on waste and damages data, and to use the workshop to facilitate discussion on specific wastes and the reasons for waste, and on solutions for waste prevention. Following on from the workshop, a waste prevention plan was developed. This was based on the outcomes of the site visits, the data analysis, and the ideas raised at the workshop. Before I start talking about the project specifics, I thought it might be useful to re-emphasise the importance of waste prevention. As explained earlier, Brakes has a zero waste to landfill target by 2015 and to currently achieving 98% diversion. This is excellent, and Brakes has worked hard to reach this target. However, as this illustration in the slide shows, the true cost of waste is much higher than just the cost of disposing of it. There are so many other costs that need to be considered when working out how much your waste actually costs. As well as your bills to the waste management company, there is also the cost of the loss of raw materials, particularly as we pointed out earlier that around 3/4 of food waste thrown away by this sector could have been eaten. There are also the energy costs, for example transporting produce from one depot to another, and the labour costs in doing this. All of this helps emphasise the importance of waste prevention and the significant potential it has to help realise financial savings as well as landfill diversion. So with this in mind, we began working with Brakes to identify what opportunities for waste prevention might exist. Through visiting 5 different sites in the Brakes network and our subsequent discussions with staff across the group, we identified a number of waste prevention opportunities. We categorised these opportunities into different types, and I'm now going to give you an overview of these. The first type of waste opportunity is linked to data collection. In order to implement waste prevention, you need to understand the reasons why waste is produced. The more data you have, the better you can understand the reasons for a particular waste stream, and then what you might be able to do to reduce it. Brakes already records data on reasons for damages, for example. But one of our recommendations for Brakes is to make sure that a consistent approach is made across all sites in how they record reasons for waste and the level of detail captured. This would allow Brakes to identify any trends in waste data more easily. And linked to data collection is the need for accurate monitoring and benchmarking of waste. This will be really important in measuring the progress made as Brakes implement their waste prevention action plan. In all businesses, you need to be able to measure waste against a benchmark in order to know if you're really making progress to prevent waste, or if waste has decreased for other reasons, such as fewer orders or other seasonal variations. So benchmarking against an appropriate metric is vital to enable different sites across the group to be compared where appropriate, as well as comparisons for each site to be made against historical data. Being able to measure waste against a set of key performance indicators will enable a target to be set for individual sites to work towards. And whilst this approach in itself does not lead to waste prevention savings, it can identify sites that are performing well, and practices from those sites can be reviewed for adoption in sites that aren't performing as well. A further opportunity for waste prevention is linked to packaging. Products are sometimes damaged due to the way that items are stacked and wrapped on pallets. Brakes has issued guidance to its suppliers on the best way to palletise items to prevent damage. However, sometimes different products need palletising in a different way, and so we recommend that Brakes review on a regular basis the palletisation guidance given to certain suppliers, particularly the suppliers of products which are more frequently damaged. it is recommended that periodic audits are undertaken to review the packaging in use and to ensure that suppliers are complying with the palletisation guidance in order to avoid damage. Another consideration is to review the potential for use of returnable packaging. And whilst this is not always easy to achieve in complex supply chains, it can be achieved in more simple supply chains. For example, when products are delivered directly to a depot and unpacked before being further transported. A further reason for waste, and therefore an opportunity for prevention, is related to stock handling. Sometimes waste is caused by damage in delivery vehicles, and this can be due to the way in which it was packed onto pallets, particularly if a pallet held items for more than one customer and needed to be unpacked during the delivery round. The guidance issued on how to palletise goods for delivery to staff should be reviewed, and further training provided to staff where needed. One of the opportunities identified was the opportunity to share good practice across the Brakes network on stock rotation. Some of Brakes sites are excellent at this and have made significant improvements over the years, and so there's an opportunity for these lessons to be passed on to other sites in the group. Another opportunity is to improve the roll cages to reduce damages. Some depots have already reduced damages by strengthening and lining the bases of cages, and there's potential to roll this out further. A further type of waste prevention opportunity is how stock is controlled on site, and there are a number of opportunities here. A wider review of the system used for forecasting and ordering stock was identified as a priority area for further investigation, for example to try and minimise instances of overstocking, and Brakes are already trialling the use of smart technology in this area. An opportunity was identified for a trial to stock fresh produce at depot level to try and reduce waste which is occurring at the National Distribution Centre. For example, some common lines of fresh fruit and vegetables could be stocked at local depots rather than just at the National Distribution Centre. This would offer more flexibility and control over the amount of fruit and vegetables held in stock and which later could simply be restocked. In some sites, there are schemes in which staff are able to purchase surplus food which might otherwise end up as waste. Practices for this differ from site to site, but there is a potential to standardise the approach to staff sales to maximise the potential for return on those items with shelf lives that are too short to be delivered to customers. There is also an opportunity to roll out further the use of surplus food redistribution schemes. These are currently used at some sites, but there is potential for further use. For example, Brakes can consider returning items to the depots from which collections are already being made if this makes it easier for food to be redistributed to charities and organisations such as Company Shop. Finally, further down the waste hierarchy, there were opportunities relating to waste management. These included increasing the segregation of food waste and dry recycling. And where there are recycling schemes in place, there's still potential to improve these, perhaps through further training and improving how bins are located and signed. The benefits of this are ensuring that more waste is diverted from landfill and further cost savings are made. Whilst some sites have recycling schemes, there is an opportunity to extend these recycling schemes. For example, new introductions of food waste recycling, or perhaps extending the materials that are collected in dry recycling collection schemes. Overall, the project identified waste prevention opportunities with potential savings of £100,000 per year. The project also identified how brakes can prevent 770 tonnes of waste per year and increase recycling by a further 1,100 tonnes per year. A waste prevention action plan, consisting of over 40 actions, has been provided to enable brakes to work on implementing the identified solutions to reduce waste. The action plan will be disseminated in a debrief meeting and actions and tasks assigned to relevant individuals and departments. Actions are also to be cascaded via the group's environmental coordinators. Further actions and knowledge sharing will be undertaken at regional environmental coordinator meetings held on a quarterly basis, including an update on progress against actions. Food service logistics operations such as brakes are complex, and brakes have already made significant progress in improving how they manage waste and resources. But what this project has done is to identify that further opportunities to prevent waste will rely on collaboration and cooperation between the different sites and teams across the brakes network. The approach for this project can be used by other companies in the sector to help them identify opportunities for waste prevention. For example, companies can engage with senior staff to get buy-in and support to undertake work relating to waste prevention, conduct an independent review of waste practices, undertake work to analyse and benchmark waste and damages data, identify opportunities and quantify the potential savings to prioritise areas to target, organise a workshop for staff across the company to discuss and identify potential solutions, develop an action plan which details the opportunities and solutions to be implemented, then implement the plan and keep track of the savings made. Brakes have benefited from an invaluable insight into the causes of food and packaging waste. They intend to use the detail of the report and project to implement a number of the preventative measures identified, taking into account the practical and commercial considerations. Brakes have reported that this project and RAP support has been very valuable as it gave them the resources to undertake this project. The project helped to identify that some of the root causes of waste were sometimes different to those assumed at the outset, and that some were related to systems. But by working in collaboration across different sites, these can be uncovered and potentially overcome. This plan will help brakes reduce operational costs for waste management through the implementation of waste prevention measures, as well as increasing segregation of food and packaging waste for recycling, contributing to the hospitality and food service agreement targets, which are very important to brakes as a founding member of the agreement. More information, including tools and guidance on RAP's work within the hospitality and food service sector, is available on RAP's website. Thank you for listening.